Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Enemies List. I'm your host, as always, Rick Wilson. I am on the road, as you have seen in other videos the last few days. This is the end of a long road trip, which is at the end of a string of long road trips. So soon enough, I'll be recording these back in the comforts of my home studio. There's a lot of candidates this week for the Enemies List. I mean, a lot. This has been a week of spectacularly crappy behavior from so many people. And while Donald Trump and his flying brothel, his $500 million bribe being paid by the Emirates, by the Qataris, is an easy target, it's really almost like baked in the cake now. The Trumps are a crime family. They are a crime syndicate. Donald Trump is governing his entire presidency by how does his family make a giant pile of money. He's working every day to ensure that his price is known, and people are ponying up to pay. The TikTok guys, $300 million today, buying Trump's scam coin. But look, again, that's easy. I want to turn your attention to an Enemies List fan favorite who really deserves it this week, and that is, of course, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. Now, Mike is an impotent, strange little weasel, porn-obsessed weirdo, one of the weakest and worst speakers of the House we've ever seen, and I've seen a few of them now, and he's in the top of the crap category. He's a bad speaker. But the thing he's doing this week, there are two things that have really come to my attention this week in Mike Johnson's universe. The first is the big, beautiful bill is a fiscal and moral train wreck headed straight toward the people that elected Donald Trump. Now, I am supposed to be bigger than this, but I'm not. This tax cut, that $4 trillion, is going to be spread out across about 60 people in the country. There is no middle-class tax benefit in this bill. The middle class is going to see higher taxes. They're not going to undo the SALT repeal they did in the 2017 bill, which screws people in New York and in any other metropolitan area, basically. I'm sorry, I wish to remind you, Mike, I know you may come from some crapulous back-ass donkey fucking town, but a lot of Americans live in places where the tax burden is very painful and where it's been very hard for them to keep up since the SALT deduction was over. So the SALT deduction's not coming back. You know what else? You're still going to pay tax on tips. You're still going to pay tax on Social Security. All those things that Trump promised that this big, beautiful bill would do were a lie. I know you're shocked to hear that Donald Trump told a big, fat lie, but it's Mike Johnson that empowers the lie. It's Mike Johnson that's carrying the weight of this. It's Mike Johnson who, in order to give those 60-some people in this country their $4 trillion, and by the way, that's just for the first couple years, okay? It goes on and on and on. To do that, Mike Johnson is cutting Medicare and Medicaid. Yes, they can bullshit that it's cost savings and this and that, whatever. They're going to cut Medicare and Medicaid. Senior health care is on the chopping block. There's almost $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts coming down the pike, folks. And I'm sorry, I know there's a common illusion on the right that everyone on Medicaid is some sort of useless slacker. Part of it almost wants to see this pass just to watch the screams from red states and red districts. Because as Steve Bannon, who we do not frequently have a lot of agreement with on this show, as Steve Bannon himself said, if Trump starts cutting those things, he has to realize a lot of folks in MAGA are on Medicare, Medicaid, disability, Social Security, SNAP, TANF, all those benefit programs that are going to be cut in this tax bill to give Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Larry Ellison and a few of Trump's buddies a gigantic honking tax cut. Look, they could at least be honest with their people, but they really would never do so. You're still seeing an awful lot of Republican MAGA economics types. Oh, this is such a great idea. It will stimulate growth in the economy. You know, I wish that story was true. It was a fairy tale we told ourselves a long time. Giving Elon Musk another several $1 billion in tax benefits is not going to grow a lot more jobs. What happened to those tax cuts in 2017? What did companies do that got those tax cuts in 2017? They bought back their stock. They didn't help their workers. They didn't grow their businesses. They didn't expand manufacturing. They bought back their stock. This is going to set off a cascade of Wall Street bacchanalia like we've never seen since the 1980s, even possibly since the Golden Age. This tax bill that Mike Johnson is slamming through as hard as he can, doing everything he can to pass it, is a rolling train wreck for this economy. I'm fascinated by all these guys who for years were like, oh, Joe Biden's Chips and Science Act, it spends $400 billion. We could never fund that. We're spending 10 times that money, blowing a $4 trillion hole in the deficit to pay for that so Elon Musk can get a tax cut. Now, look, Mike Johnson is a snake who is truly a pernicious force in our government. That little weasel dipshit went out this week and said, well, what Biden did was criminal, but what Trump is doing, it's in plain sight. As Dave Weigel said, so that means if you're shoplifting and you wave at the camera, it's okay? No, that's not how this works, Mike. But look, I've kept my eye more on the executive branch lately, and that is a mistake in some ways. Because guys like Mike Johnson, weasels like Mike Johnson, little dipshit creeps like Mike Johnson, they are, again, a truly pernicious influence. Now, I am enjoying the pain that Mike Johnson's feeling right now. They are having trouble passing this bill. They have a lot of Republicans who are very unhappy for various reasons. Some of them for the SALT cuts, those Northeast Republicans, very unhappy they're not going to have those. You've got some actual fiscal conservatives still roaming around. They're very unhappy. Chip Roy and those folks are very unhappy. And here's the thing, slight deviation from the condemnation of Mike Johnson right now, which is always appropriate. With my hand to Mary, Mother of God, if Hakeem Jeffries gets rolled by these fucking people and allows votes to go forward on this bill, I don't even want to know what to say. I've said this a dozen times. Lock it all down. Shut it all down. Block this fucking thing. Kill it. No program that you think is in your district is worth a $4 trillion explosion of debt and deficits to feed Elon Musk. Never worth it. So Democrats, please, for the love of God, Mike Johnson is weak. His coalition is fragile. Your job is not to make a deal that gets him over the finish line. Your job is to curb stomp the living shit out of this bill. Your job is to beat Mike Johnson senseless about this bill. And I know they're going to try all the usual reconciliation tricks and all the back and forth and bullshit. The Senate would like to pass a bill, but they're not so deeply committed to this as Mike Johnson is, because Donald Trump knows the bill has to come from the House. It's a tax bill. It is going to be hard to pass it. Democrats should make it harder. It should be more painful. They should be talking about the agony America will suffer for this. Listen, I picked this up today. I was told that the polling on the Medicare Medicaid cuts for the Republicans by Republican polling is so bad, Mike Johnson did not want to brief the members about it. That it is so catastrophically bad, he did not want to brief his own members. Because if he did, this bill would already be in the dumpster. He'd already be screwed. Now look, we are in a moment right now of obscene corruption, economic crisis, a presidency in decline, and a House of Representatives run by a man who is not strong. This is what we call the opportunity space, Democrats. You need to demonize Mike Johnson, demonize this bill, and not in the usual, it pays for the rich and not for the working. You need to do it by showing that this is a part of a spectrum of corruption. This is a bill with a ton of stuff in it. You know there are a lot of poison pills in this thing. You know there are a lot of ugly little giveaways in this thing. Make those part of the story. Make those part of the deal. Mike Johnson is weak. Prosecute the case. I like persecution of Mike Johnson too. That's a great idea. But if you don't look at this as something that must be stopped in every way, you must slam the brakes on it. Because again, it's not a tax bill. This is an economic reset in this country to a degree and a scope that the 2017 bill, which was an obscenity in and of itself, but at least it threw a few crumbs to middle class voters. This has nothing like that. This is not going to help small business or even many large businesses. This is going to help nobody. This is going to help the very top tier, 65 or 68 people, there's a couple of estimates I've talked to people about, are going to get the vast sum of that $4 trillion. If you believe that Mike Johnson has a leverage over you by saying, well, we won't be able to put your, road program in District 16 in Pennsylvania, Democratic congressman, you are out of your mind. Do not do that. Mike Johnson is an evil man. He has shown you he's evil. He's the worst kind of evil, though. He's evil wrapped in the nerdy little whiny bitch package. He's evil who speaks quietly. He's not a yeller or a screamer or a howler monkey like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert or any of these dipshits. He's not an Andy Biggs. He's not a Hulk Gosar. He speaks quietly. Comes across as inoffensive to many people. But what he's doing should offend you. What he's doing should infuriate and anger and enrage you. This is a bad bill written by bad people. The lobbyists who are writing this bill, by the way, they are carving it out for Twitter and their AI programs. They're carving things into it for Facebook and for Google. They're carving all these special things to enhance the power of Trump's executive branch to further screw America. There are a lot of things in this bill, and Democrats, you need to go to it. You guys have researchers, get to work. But Mike Johnson, if you don't understand that he's weak and his coalition is fragile and his coalition can be broken, then find leaders who do. You need to put maximum pressure on these people, folks. Now, for those of you listening and watching, you also need to be running maximum pressure. You're a member of Congress, and I know this is frustrating you. I say this all the time. I know you're frustrated by it. Your member of Congress needs to hear from you on the phone, in the emails, and sending physical letters to their offices. They need to know how unpopular this stuff is. Now, the other thing you need to be doing is making sure that any member of your family who's a MAGA, any Trump supporter or Republican supporter of this bill, it's a simple question. What's in it for you? Be specific. Show me where. Because they can't answer that question unless you happen to be related to a billionaire. But it's important And this is a big one. And Mike Johnson he's managed to keep his coalition glued together with Donald Trump's help. Right now, Trump is in trouble. He's distracted. He's playing with his new toy, his new airplane. He's still trying to get a Nobel Peace Prize. With my hand to God, that is a true statement. Someone from the White House told me. Trump's still trying to get a Nobel Peace Prize. For what? God knows. But Trump is distracted. The Senate is on a razor's edge on killing this whole thing. But Mike Johnson needs to be more front and center for your mental processes about where the evil is coming. And I think it's important you make sure that you keep Mike Johnson at the very top of your personal enemies list. Folks, the show will be back in full production mode next week. Been a long series of road trips. Been home a day or two here and there. We appreciate all of you tuning in to the enemies list every week. We loved our Q&A session we did last week. We're going to make that a very regular feature. The Q&A stuff, just people have absolutely, I cannot tell you the number of emails we've gotten about that. It's nuts. And some really great questions, by the way. Some terrific questions. By the way, I also want to say this. I know we're in a lot of different platforms. You can follow me on Lincoln Square. We've got the Lincoln Project podcast, my Enemies List podcast, which you're listening to now. Every Friday, the elephant in the room is a 10 or 15 minute look behind the curtain of something going on in politics that I think you should know about based on experience and knowledge and how these things work outside of the light of day. You can catch me on Mondays with Molly John Fast on Fast Politics. I write at Substack as always. You can follow me on all the platforms at the Rick Wilson. Lately, I use Twitter. Basically, I walk in, roll a grenade in the room, and walk back out. I'm on Blue Sky more frequently than the other platforms, also on Threads. One more thing. I want to take one special moment for a brief secondary entry on this enemies list. A group of South African refugees fleeing genocide started showing up at American airports. Not one of these people looked like they had been fleeing anything, including the breakfast bar. This is all an Elon Musk, weird Peter Thiel, Elon Musk obsession with South Africa. Elon, it seems like, has some sort of lost cause affection for apartheid. These folks are being given temporary protected status because they're, quote, fleeing from a genocide. This is on Marco Rubio, motherfucker. They rejected temporary status for Afghan interpreters who helped American troops in that country for 20 years and who came here after the close of our role there. Every one of them that goes back to Afghanistan will be killed. Every single one of them will be killed. Every single one of them will be killed. It is shallow. It is disloyal. It is hateful. But they're brown, and the folks from South Africa are not. To my mind, this really will represent a low point in Marco Rubio's tenure as Secretary of Everything. He's now been assigned to all the jobs. But as Secretary of State, as a guy whose parents fled from Cuba, as a guy who made his political personality and his political career based on fighting for freedom because he understood the horrors that communism and oppression had wrought on the country of his parents and his grandparents, for him to now believe that Afrikaners represent this endangered cohort facing a genocide with no evidence of that, by the way. Hey, crime in South Africa sucks. It's terrible. But all the statistics show that these people are being victimized by ordinary crime, not by some genocidal program. If you want genocide, check out the Taliban. They'll be there for you. If you want genocide, check out the Taliban. And that's where we're going to doom these interpreters who helped our country, who kept our troops safe, who fought beside our men and women in uniform in Afghanistan. There is a sickness in the head of Marco Rubio and Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller and Tom Homan to believe that this decision is moral. They don't care. They don't give a shit about any sort of human decency or moral obligation, or even how this affects the view of America in the world. But they are on the enemies list for their own separate little subcategory this week, and thus they will remain. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.